Hello, folks. This is yours truly, Randy Rand, host of today's talk. How you doing? Hope all is well. We interviewed Dr. Marco Clark, who's the CEO and founder of the Richard Wright Public Charter School located in Washington, D.C. And we talked to him about illiteracy in the urban schools here in America and what he's doing about it to fight illiteracy, as well as, urban education. Certainly hope you enjoy the interview. Thanks. We are speaking with Dr. Marco Clark. He's a friend of the show. He's the founder and chief executive officer of the Richard Wright Public Charter School for Journalism and Media Arts in Washington, D.C. He's also a partner with the Broken Promises School, which is the last time we spoke with him. He was doing some work with the Broken Promise Schools, and he's also the co-founder of the Peace Through Urban Exchange program, which is located in Chicago, Illinois. How you doing, Dr. Clark?
I'm fantastic. It's always good to be on the show with you, and I appreciate your work as always. You providing a voice to the community, which is so important.
Well, thank you so much for your sentiments, Dr. Clark. It really means a lot coming from you because the work that we do is very important, and everybody needs to know about it. Certainly. Now, I want to ask you, in your view, please talk about the need for policy change when it comes to students in urban America.
There has to be a clear policy change across the board in urban America. I mean, when we really look at it, besides the vices that we know that there are public school systems that serve populations of urban America are typically underfunded. We know that there are mostly socioeconomic issues that happen in these urban areas. We also know that we're dealing with families that are headed up by single-parent households. And so when you have policies that are aligned with school districts that don't have the same challenges and you expect the same outcome, you're already knowing and projecting failure amongst this group of individuals. When looking at the students, what we have to recognize is that these are kids that really want to learn. They all have aspirations. They all have goals. What we're asking for is that it's time for people to make sure that they are meeting these kids where they are and taking them where they need to go, as well as recognizing the fact that these young people have goals and aspirations that they can clearly achieve. The second thing is that we need to focus on the reading and understanding that and most of the kids that are in urban areas, because of these different challenges, the schools are raggedy, the teachers are raggedy, the administrators are raggedy, and the education, of course, is a raggedy education that they're getting. And so since that is the case, how can you keep failed policies and expect positive outcomes? It just won't happen. And so you're going to get a group of frustrated students that will come in and tear your building up and raise all types of hell because they can't read, they can't write, they can't compute, but you expect them to compete with their counterparts in other districts. It just can't happen.
I thoroughly agree. You mentioned the ability to read and certainly to write. If you could please speak about the dangers of being illiterate in the 21st century.
I think we're seeing evidence of that right now. The number of black lives being murdered every day, and they're black on black crimes. When you're looking on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and all these different places, you're finding people, they're really attacking the police, but the crime is happening in the communities where it's black on black crime. And so the reality is what we're seeing is that you're going to continue to have this. Crime is going to go up. And with those folks who are illiterate that cannot read, homicides are going to continue to happen. We're going to become victims of our own demise because we will continue to destroy our neighborhoods, knowing that we don't have the wealth to rebuild them, knowing that we don't have the resources to go to get the money that's necessary to rebuild them. And so we have a poor educational system where kids can't read, and so the only options they have are to commit crimes. And since that is the case, then we're going to see this thing running in a circle like a dog that's chasing his tail. And so he will continue to do that over and over again, a cycle of poverty, a cycle of kids who aren't going anywhere but in circles. And this information and not being able to read, I mean, come on. I found myself in New York City a few weeks ago on a speaking engagement, and we got to Penn Station. And when you get to Penn Station, there is several different trains. You could take the Long Island train, you could take the subway train, the A to B to C, the 1, 2, 3. You could hop on the bus, the taxis, and all of these different places that will help transport you out of Penn Station. What I found myself understanding is that how can a person navigate to travel anywhere if they can't read?
Yep.
And so reading is the biggest fundamental thing that will help you through your life. And we're seeing generations upon generations that's building upon the literacy, and our communities are going to continue to explode if we don't do something about that.
Now, could you speak to your approaches in combating illiteracy? You know, what's been successful to you in your efforts?
Well, I use the 21st century tool. It's called test.kids.com. I live by it. I believe it. It gets kids engrossed. Kids are using media every day, and we see the evidence of that, just looking at the level of social media that's being used. So we know that kids have access to our computers because they walk around with them on their hips. So we use this 21st century where they can go to it. It does not allow them to move until they master. So we're ensuring that kids can read. That's one of the approaches. The other approach is that I require my kids to write and go back and research the information that they are putting on paper to begin to increase their knowledge of reading and writing, the fundamentals that go along with it that will help them move forward in their lives. And then the third thing is that I make it my job to educate families and to provide services to engage those parents who may have dropped out of high school, those parents who may have, got through high school because somebody socially promoted them but really didn't have the skill that was necessary, really true to earn a diploma. And I go back and make sure that we are educating those as well. You hit the root of the problem, and once you attack that root, you can begin to see the flowers grow because people are feeling great that they can read, and they're feeling great that they have this clear understanding, and they're using the 21st century technology to go across the board and to use that to magnify and to correct the issues that they've had.
We're speaking with Dr. Marco Clark, who's the founder and chief executive officer of the Richard Wright Public Charter School for Journalism and Media Arts in Washington, D.C., and he's kind enough to give us some of his time today. Dr. Clark, could you please speak about the work you do at Richard Wright Public Charter School?
The work I do at Richard Wright is not enough, and the work that we do here, we're able to save a corner of kids. And as I travel around the country, people talk about what I'm able to do at Richard Wright, and that is we're able to have over 90% graduation rate. 100% of that group is accepted to college and going to college, enrolled in college.
Great.
We're able to increase our test scores by 100% each year that we take these standardized assessments. And I have kids lined up to want to get into our school, but that's not enough because there's only one Dr. Clark, and I go places and they call me the America's toughest principal because I believe in hitting at the root of the problem and not cutting any corners. I'm really tired of educators not doing that, not giving their all and allowing things that they know is wrong to continue to happen. So we're seeing great progress here. Our school is about journalism and media arts, and in doing that, we believe that taking the journalism, it requires you to become a good reader. And so if you can read, that will partly save your life. The second thing is that if you become a good reader, then definitely your writing skills are going to improve. And as we improve your reading and writing skills and you become proficient in those things, then you're going to have a voice. And so we believe in reading, writing, and that voice gives you the ability to speak. So if you can read, write, and speak, you can advocate for that poor community. You can uplift that poor community. You can give that community a positive voice besides what's on the news at 4, 5, 6, and 11 o'clock at night. You can change that trajectory, and that's what we're doing here at Richard Wright. Then we give it a twist of media because our kids are becoming broadcast journalists and filmmakers, independent filmmakers, and web designers. They're able to create something that's going to change the voice of the community from which people see it. And that's what's exciting that's happening here at Richard Wright Public Charter School in Washington, D.C. But I'm only one person, and I can only do so much, and I push folks to get involved with what we do.
That is astounding. You know, when I first saw what you were doing there at the Richard Wright Public Charter School, I got real excited. And I tell you the truth, it's kind of hitting me where I'm living. You know, as we were talking a little bit earlier, I went back to school and got my master's in public administration, and I also have a master's in communications. And one thing that I am really excited about and focused on doing is, you know, combining skills that I've learned in both disciplines, which leads me to my next question. Now, what you're doing there at the Richard Wright Public Charter School for Journalism and Media Arts is a wonderful thing. I think these kids need to learn as much about media and journalism as possible, because when they do that, they're able to tell their story. In order for them to tell their story, they have to be literate. Once you're literate and you can tell your story, you can change the dynamic of what people are understanding. And that is so vital. And one thing I get really excited about, not only about the kids learning about the media and journalism, I also have an interest in them learning about policy and policy development. Is there anything that you're doing at the Richard Wright Public Charter School in its curriculum that mixes the learning of the media and the journalism as well as policy development?
Every class that our kids take involves that in understanding how policies are made and how policies should be changed. One of the things that we really, really heighten our kids about is I ask the first question, and the question is, what matters most, politics or education? In which order should they come? And so that is a question that my kids are able to respond to, because part of becoming a proficient student is understanding politics and understanding how policy affects you. And so that is the voice that we're pushing with our kids. So in every class, they are required to understand and to be able to dissect information that's infused in the classes. So our kids take Latin, they take science, math, pre-calculus, because they need to understand how policy works throughout those classes and why these classes are necessary. So we talk about those kinds of things. We also effect change from the 31st of August. We are doing 100 men called Man the Block. And so we're going to have over 100 men that are out here to escort our kids home on that particular day. As a high school, you know, one of the issues that we're running into is that, you know, kids they love coming to school. And it's not the problem to get them to school. The problem is the kids have issues going home. They're fighting to get through their neighborhoods with the people that look just like them. And because they want to be proficient students, they're having issues and getting beat up. And we see so many things online. And so the kids are asking, how can we create a policy and get our voice out there that the police will help us? And so our kids are learning that. They're learning what language to use in English. They're learning how to dissect what comes back to them in Latin. They're learning how to create a media clip that's empowering in the film class. They're learning in journalism how to write a short editorial that would give them voice. They talk about everything in these classes that will give them voice, that changes policies. And then we go to the city council meetings and testify on the research that we've put together and some of the challenges that the city government must become accountable for. And my kids have that voice, but they've done it through the infusion and the understanding of how policy is changed.
That is an awesome work. That I cannot tell you how that fills me just to hear that, because that is so needed in you know, with these younger kids and the younger generation moving forward. And I know I don't have to tell you, these are some serious times that we are living in, and if we don't become educated, if our younger kids, if the younger generation does not become educated, doesn't get educated, they're dead in the water. They're walking targets. And I think that's been made quite evident as what we're seeing today in our streets. I want to move on to the next question. In your opinion, I want to switch gears a little bit. In your opinion, what is the biggest contributor to the negative images we see of African Americans in the media?
In my opinion, the biggest negative stereotype that was being put out there is ourselves. I think we are writing our own story as a community by a small segment of people who are not media literate. These are folks who are exploiting the YouTube and exploiting Vimeo and all of the other social media, putting things out there that is creating an image of African Americans that's not necessarily so. It's a small pocket of people that's creating a lot of these challenges. But the reason that they're able to stand so strong and get such a major voice is because those of us who are not engaging in this ignorant behavior are not willing to step up and use our voice to the level that we have it. We're not willing to step up and take a chance to educate the ones who are filled with ignorance that are not doing what's necessary. And so we are still contributing to the problem because even if you say, well, that's not me, you're not doing anything to help change it. You're not doing anything to change the mindset of these young people that's creating an image that says that this community is really stupid. And I have to use it. I mean, because I'm very passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts me to my heart to understand that
too.
We can stand back and watch these kind of ignorant things happen and nobody does anything about it. If we're going to really look out to change and give a different positive look on things, we can't sit back and because you drive a Mercedes or you live in the suburbs and you moved out of the city and you don't live in the projects anymore, that like they would say, you would turn your nose up and look down because the images that's being displayed in the hood are the same images that we are dealing with as professional individuals who have gone to college and become educated. We're dealing with these challenges because the people that are so ignorant are putting out the information, and people are putting us all in one basket. There was an old cliche that used to say all black people look alike. Well, that cliche has moved on, but the reality is that all of these folks are not necessarily look alike, but act alike. If you get them frustrated, this is the response you're going to get. And we got to change that. And that's where I am in doing your part and the group of young people that I work with and serve and their families. My voice has to be strong, and I can't be weak and not stand for what's necessary and what's right.
Amen. I couldn't have said it any better than that, Dr. Clark. I certainly couldn't. I'm going to give you the chance to please feel free to plug your website or any other works or project that you're involved in.
We're going to be doing the Man the Block on August the 31st here in Washington, D.C. If any men are around in the D.C. area, I would ask them to get involved with this particular movement. It's going to be awesome. We are taking care of our children one student at a time. My website is drmarcoclark.com. That is drmarcoclark.com. Or I can be reached at 860-997-6802. Or they can hashtag me at America's Toughest Principal, Dr. Marco Clark, and we can move on with that. I'm just excited about the work I do, and I'm thankful that I have the opportunity and the ability to do what I do. And hopefully I can continue to change the lives of others that are coming behind me.